3, 2, 1, yeah, we ready right now. Got me feeling so free, free, like a cool summer breeze.
Welcome back to the Side Quest Hustle. My name is Shad. I'm your host. I want to thank y'all for joining me on the second episode. I want to thank everybody who gave me feedback from the first episode. I really appreciate the constructive criticism. It helps me a lot. And so do the same with this one. Give me feedback. Follow us on all social medias. We're at the Side Quest Hustle on everything, all streaming platforms, YouTube, wherever you listen to your podcast, Apple, Spotify, Google. Today's a special day. Today we have the first guest for the Side Quest Hustle. We have Blerd Minds Productions. I'm going to let them introduce themselves here in just a second, but I want to thank them for joining the show today.
Have you heard of us? We are Blerd Minds Productions, and have you heard about our comic book? It's Wake the Dead, a supernatural horror comic about family, necromancy, and so much more. Read it on Webtoon, and if listening is your preference, listen to our audiobook on Spotify. Our official website will be launching soon. Don't miss it. It's going to feature our comics, tons of merch for you, artist profiles, and if you'd like to contact us directly, there's going to be more information on that.
Hey man, thank you for having us. First off, shoot, I didn't know we was the first guest. Hey, that's special.
Yeah, definitely. You guys were some of the first people that, whenever I was launching a podcast and getting active on social media, I found the Blerd Minds Production page and I found the Wake the Dead comment, and I started reading it and I loved the story. The story was great. So I reached out, and y'all were one of the first people I reached out to get on, and I want to try to connect with some of the other creators in the space and give them time to shine, give them light, and let them promote themselves, get their product out there. So if you guys could you plug your socials and website?
Go first, huh?
Well, as far as the social, I out for the resident director, editor, yes, for the audio side of the Blerd Minds Production and video editor as well. And our social handle is AYE_3YE on Twitter. And as well as you can check out the website, blerdminds.com. So yeah.
Yep, and I am Scuba Steve 1428 on all social media. I am the creator, founder of Wake the Dead, Payback, and a couple other stories that we got in the book. Basically, I'm the writer, and that's pretty much what it is. Yes, but you can follow me at Scuba Steve 1428. Alpha already plugged the website. It's blerdminds.com.
Cool. And so, speaking to you guys earlier, you were telling me that Blerd Minds Productions is a collective.
I just was writing Payback, and I was writing one of my stories, Payback, and I was writing my story, Wake the Dead. And then me and Alpha, we've been knowing each other going on, 5 years now, 4 years?
Damn. So who else was it? Yeah, I guess a year, because my son was only one at the time.
Yeah. So really, I'm a fan of like different podcasts and stuff like that. So he was on a podcast, Nerds and Cool Kids, and then he started posting like his videos of him streaming Pokemon and everything like that. And I just immediately, linked with him. We started vibing and stuff like that. And we bounced ideas off each other. And it just turned into this crazy thing, because we really just started off as just homies and just and then it just spun out of control, you know what I'm saying? Mine started working, and that's really what it is. So we do the comics and stuff like that, and Alpha came up with the idea for the audiobook. I'll let him take that away.
So the whole audiobook idea came from listening to Jordan Peele audiobooks. And I was like, Steve, we could do shit. You got an artist for Waste of Day? Thousands of her. So we know mad people into this space that want to be voice actors. We could start something. And that's how it started from there.
Yeah, it just was one of those things where people wanted to be voice actors, and I'm like, man, we can't really, you know what I'm saying, put together a whole bunch of money or nothing like that, but what we can do, I know everybody wants to do their own portfolio with their voices and stuff like that and have all this. I was like, y'all can play 2 or 3 different characters and y'all can use the voices for whatever portfolio and things that y'all want to do. And you know what I'm saying? And people was like, hell yeah, I'm down for it. And it blew up. It took off real quick. I was really surprised at how quickly it came about.
I discovered you guys through Wake the Dead comic. How did you come up with the concept for Wake the Dead?
Oh man, Wake the Dead was an accident. I'm not gonna lie to you. It was so like Payback was the story that I was working on, and that's still in the works. We releasing that one by volume rather than by chapter, so I wanted to see how it would go. But with Wake the Dead, pretty much one of my homeboys, he's in the Navy and he was on a deployment, and he basically was like, I'm bored. He's like, come up with a story so I can draw. And I was like, okay. And then I came up with the story, and he drew like 2 pages and was like, this too hard. And that was just it. So now I had a whole story with no artists, no nothing. So we just started finding the artists and everything like that. So that's really how Wake the Dead came. I'm actually not into horror at all. I'm actually scared. I'm a real scary dude. So like, it kind of was like, I know what scares me. And I kind of made me a story out of it, basically. And really, honestly and truthfully, I came up with this theory that there are so many cemeteries and things like that, and graveyards and stuff. And I see like 1834 and 1850 on the gravestones. And I'm like, dang, they're not making the cemetery bigger, but these people are, you know, there's more bodies. And I was like, what if somebody was moving them around and stuff like that? And then that's kind of how Wake the Dead kind of came about. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Like, it was just, it was kind of like an accident that spiraled out of control into this.
You aren't a fan of horror, so like new horror movies, books, or nothing?
Oh, parks.
Yeah, I've probably seen like 3 horror movies in the last 15 years. I'm scared of horror movies.
Really? So you don't have a favorite horror movie or book or nothing?
My favorite horror movie would probably be Dead Silence. And then The Skeleton Key, even though I don't think that's a horror movie, it's more like a supernatural story. And I think that those 2 are like my go-to. Like, if somebody asks me what horror movies and stuff that I like, it's Dead Silence and The Skeleton Key. That one, I'm sorry.
I would know. You even knew he was writing a horror story that somebody planned out to you.
Yeah, I didn't. Somebody was on.
So tell me about that. So somebody had to point out to you that it was a horror story.
Yeah, because I thought I was just writing like a supernatural story, and I didn't think supernatural necessarily qualifies as horror. And then I think it was what age?
Either Abraham,
but it pretty much they was like the elements that you do for the audio side is so creepy and like that's really good. They was all like, man, what made you decide to write a horror story? And I was like, this ain't a horror story, this is a supernatural story. They was like, they was like, this is horror, brother. And I was like, oh, okay. But yeah, I mean, that's Testitute the Alpha though, doing all that.
Yeah, definitely the audio book. I listened to the first 2 chapters. Like I said, I've read all of the webtoon, but when I listened to that first audio recording, I was like, yeah, they got it. This is creepy. They got the right voice, and I mean, it matched the description that I read of the story perfect. And so yeah, Alpha, you did a great job with that one. So Alpha, can you tell me a little bit about that, planning out the audiobook and finding voice actors? How was that process?
Well, as finding a voice actor, that was all Steve. But as far as like the vision, it was like when reading the story, it is understanding the direction trying to have, because we have some very talented voice artists.
Oh, yeah.
Like, some of them was doing maybe 3 or 4 voices at a time.
Man, people don't
And in thousands. Like having dialogue with each other.
Could you tell us a little bit about the voice actors? Who voiced which characters?
Okay, so for instance, Goliath, Jada, and Dion is voiced by Kenny. I have his Twitter handle. I don't have it at the moment.
Kendall Grant VA.
Okay. Jules, on a couple of side voices, is voiced by CJ Ferguson. She's also a voice actor in other project, Crossroads Confessions, as well. There's an episode on that out right now. We have Hercules, Shaka, another side character voiced by Sean, another very talented person. We have the Spake Sisters, who voiced by Naya, and Naomi is Janice. Naomi is Bam. Okay. And we have Johan, who plays Dimitri, Frankie, that plays Damien, and Rome, that plays Denzel. So that's the core group.
Yeah, and that's it. We only got like
Abby
is fair. And then, but Johan played multiple characters too.
And then multiple side characters as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a lot.
But the funny thing is, we started off with 5 people, as me and Steve was going to voice characters until we found more people that wanted to join the project. So we got to take a step back and do more work in
behind the scenes work.
But
Okay. Alpha, can you tell me a little bit about the recording process? Did you guys meet up at a studio, or did everybody voice and send them in? Can you tell me what that process was like?
There's a website we use for StreamYard, and it allows us to individually record everybody's track. So we have some sets with maybe 3 to 7 people in a session, and we just record scenes and wrote about lyrics. And with that individual track list, I'm able to edit nothing. Timestamps help. Anyways.
Yeah, I got to do better at getting those timestamps for him, because I record it and then I just be like, here go chapter 5, and he'd be like, he's always like, bro, what scene is what? You don't have nothing saying. And I was like, oh yeah, you're right. I got to remember that.
What's key?
What are some of the themes that you explored in Wake the Dead, and what are some that you plan on exploring as the story expands?
The things that we explored in Wake the Dead is the story is about kind of like necromancy, and it's really about, the whole story itself is the 2 Wake siblings have a profession in which people will pass away, and you might not get to say goodbye to those loved ones when they pass. So you can contact the Wake sisters, and then they will necromance them so you can have your final moments with your loved ones. And that's what the whole thing is. So it's really about dealing with the loss of loved ones, death, and things like that. So those are the things that we've touched on so far. And later on, we're going to dive into deeper things as far as like not just coincidental death, trigger warning, deal with suicide, and you know what I'm saying, or pretty much murder, things like that. And then those type of aspects will come into the play of like having those deep, strong conversations of losing a loved one to sickness or suicide or things like that. So those are things that we're later on going to be touching on, and I'm just excited to see where we're going with it.
That led me to kind of my first theory as I read through. And if this is a spoiler, something you plan on touching on later, you could just tell me that and we can move on. But does their necromancy power attract the Banshees?
Like it.
Oh yeah. I mean, I think that's been revealed in the story, haven't it? So far, it's kind of, the magic and stuff like that. The Banshees are like, but we want to go to places where the dead are and to make sure that they get the moon. So I think that's I don't think that's a real spoiler. I think that's, that's in there. So that's cool.
Is it something that the sisters know though? I mean, it seems like they're going in, doing their job, and then they're moving on to the next. And the Banshees are coming in behind them and wrecking shop. Do they know the Banshees are coming in behind them?
Nah, they don't. So far, they don't. I'll say we don't know if they'll know later on. We don't know if maybe a conversation might be had between the Banshees and them. But yeah, there's some things that's in play that we haven't touched on. I don't know how, because I'm trying to remember, because our audiobook is ahead of the webtoon. So I got to make sure not to give any spoilers.
Nope.
It's not?
No.
Oh, we recorded audio stuff ahead of the webtoon, but we haven't dropped it yet. Okay, yeah. So yeah, I don't know exactly where we are on the webtoon, because I think the last thing we had was the siblings and Dion and the purists have a fight.
The last episode of that audiobook is that scene.
Is that scene? Oh, okay. So yeah, y'all can actually read along and listen to the audiobook at the same time, which I think would be pretty cool.
That's right.
So do you got any other theories before you? Yeah, let's see what you got. I want to know.
I don't think the purists are the bad guys. So far, they've been shown as somewhat of like an antagonistic force to the Wake sisters, but I think they're trying to do good. They may be taking a different approach than maybe they should, but I think they realize that someone is performing necromancy and it's causing trouble and it's causing the Banshees to attack, and they're trying to stop it. And so, yeah, I don't necessarily think they're the bad guys.
Fair enough. I think you're doing some good detective work.
Yeah. Proud.
It's weird, like, because it's like we know exactly what's gonna happen, and then it's like, dang, okay, pretty dope. So, yeah, but no, that's actually a really good theory. I think it's really good.
Just leave it at that.
Yeah.
You mentioned that Blerd Minds Productions is working on 4 projects currently. Can you tell me a little bit about the other projects you guys are working on?
Yes,
I'm gonna go first. Oh, you want me to? Okay, I'll do Payback. You can do Crossroads Confession, and then I'll do Bullet.
Okay.
All right, so Payback is the first original story from Blerd Minds Productions. We released 1 chapter, but I was like, the way that the story has for Payback, there's a lot of cliffhangers, and I just wasn't comfortable with making y'all wait 4 or 5 months for another chapter and then another cliffhanger come, and then so I was like, all right, we're gonna finish the entire first volume. You get a good chunk of the story and backstory and everything, and then that was how I was gonna release. Payback is about these 6 dudes that pretty much they live in a universe where superpowers are outlawed. So since superpowers are outlawed, nobody is like using their powers in public. They kind of hide, they kind of do like little contracts, mercenaries, killings, heists, and things like that. So we follow these guys throughout this whole universe of them using their powers and everything like that to do contract killings, mercenaries, heists, and things like that. And then we have these group of people called the Zodiacs that are trying to capture everybody that is a power user, make sure you turn yourself in, just simple stuff like that. And it goes really, really crazy. I'll shoot you over some of the artwork for that because it's looking really, really good. But yeah, Payback is one of the first stories that we came up with, and that's that.
All right. So Crossroads Confessions is a story I just made on the way, and it centers around mental health between 2 women that was dealt in a tragic car crash amongst each other. One of the women lost both her kids in the accident. The other was pregnant and had a miscarriage because of the accident. So time goes past, and they both seek therapy. Oddly enough, the woman that lost the kid in the miscarriage is a therapist herself. And the other woman happens to go seek therapy and visit her. And they don't know they was in a part of the same car crash. So as the story goes on and the sessions go prolong, they'll find out they was in the same cold clash. So, but as a person that deals with mental health, it was just something I just wanted to bring out there.
Well, shit.
The first episode's out on audio. There's only audio only for right now. Yeah.
And then the other story that we have, shout out to Dave, he's not here. Dave came to me with a concept after reading the first volume of Payback. And he called me kind of like on a drunken whim and was like, all right, hear me out. He said, what if you had a superhero or whatever, that couldn't get shot? And I was like, what? And it's supposed to be like, I guess it's going to be in the Payback universe, but it's going to be its own separate story, kind of a comedy series, The Misadventures of Bulletproof. And basically the character just, he works at a gas station. He doesn't even know he has superpowers because obviously who's been shot? You know what I'm saying? So somebody comes in to rob the convenience store and he finds out that he is bulletproof. And pretty much that's the story of it. He decides he's gonna become a superhero, and it's basically a comedy series. It's really, really crazy. The first chapter, I can't really dive too much into it because that's Dave's thing, but that first chapter is hilarious, and I think that it'll have everybody laughing. So Bulletproof is that one, and it's really, really good.
So social media plays a big role in how you engage with your audience. Has social media played a role or influenced the development of Wake the Dead and how you interact with fans?
He didn't have any idea when I was writing the stories, like how you said, the intricate little things in the back that you don't think about. My artist was like, okay, you got these characters and this story and stuff. He said, what does Naomi look like? What does Naya look like? And I had no idea. Like, it never registered that I need to actually give a description of what these characters look like. And I just ended up basically anybody that was supporting the things that me and Alpha were doing, I just used them as a template for their character. So each one of these characters are people from social media that we hang out with and shit. So yeah, so each character is pretty much like different people from social media. I think that's an aspect that it played tremendously in the story because those character designs are them.
Do they know those characters are based off of them?
Yeah, I've announced it and then they're like, yeah. But once they start seeing the characters, like once the pages are getting inked and stuff, I actually tag them and they like, oh snap, you was for real. You know what I'm saying? Like, so that's been like a fun thing to watch people see that their character is there and they like, oh snap, like that's me or whatever. And I'm hoping, everybody just love the fact that they characters and I hope they don't get too attached to the characters because it's like, it's not necessarily you. So you might die. You know what I'm saying? But it just looks like you. It's not you. So, yeah.
So nobody's safe. They get the Game of Thrones treatment.
Too excited. Don't get too attached.
I think you guys did a good job of telling an evergreen story, one that someone 10 years from now can pick up and not feel outdated. So what time frame does the story actually take place?
Wake the Dead, I want to say it's more so in like the 90s kind of feel. It gives that vibe. I don't know, I'm not sure if it's giving that vibe, but it's like a 90s type feel with just random like gadgets and stuff that Jaden comes up with. But it's still supposed to give a 90s type feel in the 90s. I don't know about Crossroads and Confessions, what time period that's supposed to be.
Like, it's the same time period because when I was writing it, I tried to like make it like a Blerd Minds verse.
Okay.
So some of the characters in my story connect to the characters in Wake the Dead. And like there's a part where one of the characters actually fought a therapy session to see the therapist.
They did.
Because they lost.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
So it was just something I was like trying to like create a verse. Like the owl verse, the power verse, just there's some type of connection to the stories.
Okay, so like a Blerd Mind verse, would the characters cross over at any point?
Like if you don't like, they'll mention the name of a character from this story. If you don't not familiar, it's gonna throw you off. But if you're familiar with it, it's like, oh, I know that person. Like that. That's the reaction I want to get.
What are some of the challenges that you guys have faced so far in creating webtoons, the stories, and the audiobook?
Go ahead, Alpha.
On the audiobook side, it's just more like adjusting to different voices. Really. Like there's so many voices to deal with as far as editing wise that it takes longer. I didn't realize it day one. And I used to do music as an engineer. I was trying to take that skill to help with this audiobook side. So it's totally different. And you have multiple voices to work on than just one or two. So that's the challenging part for me.
Facts.
When they're recording their voices for the different characters, like you mentioned that the same voice actor will voice multiple characters. With that, are they recording each character separately, or if they're recording two characters that are in the same scene, are they doing it concurrently?
So they will record one character first within the same file, and then they'll do the next character after. And once I get into the actual editing part, I just split it up and have separate tracks.
Except for Sean. Sean was bouncing back and forth. That was insane. Well, that time. Yeah. Shout out to Shad.
So he was doing like the same scene with multiple characters and sort of bouncing back and forth between the characters.
And if you know who Hercules, the little maniacal Banshee is in the audio, that's Sean. And he was bouncing back in a conversation between that and Shaka going back. It was crazy. I was like, oh no, this is wild.
Nah, that's talent. It's talent to be able to do that and do it successfully. Yeah. Okay. Are there any specific artists or comics writers that you guys take inspiration from?
So for me, it's Robert Kirkman. Robert Kirkman made The Walking Dead, Invincible, what's it called? Fire Punch. Those are like the 3 comics that he's done, and the reason why I like Robert Kirkman a lot is because he puts something so small in a story and it changes everything in that whole universe, because all the times we gotten a million zombie stories. Robert Kirkman was the first one that was like, no matter what happened when you die, you're gonna turn into a zombie. And then that changed the whole dynamic of zombie storytelling in general, but the whole dynamic of that story, because they just thought if you get bit, you'll die. And then now that's a whole nother tool that you can add to the story. You've seen in their little wars and things that they have, they'll just shoot somebody and then let them turn. And now you got zombies on your side in the middle of the war. And I just thought, just like little small things like that change the whole dynamic of your storytelling. And I always wanted to do that, like just put something small in the story that can change everything about what's going on in the story, everything that you thought. It makes you want to reread the story because you like, dang, you know what I'm saying? Easter eggs and little trails like that. Same with Invincible. Invincible, you like, that's just a story. You know what I'm saying? Omni-Man is bad, blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden, the one thing he drops in there is he's like, Omni-Man is like, Mark, you're going to live millions of years. You know what I'm saying? He was all like, these people are insignificant. He said, you're going to start aging super slow. And that changes the entire story when you really think about it, on how you can understand how Omni-Man can kill people like it's nothing, because to them, it really is nothing. They're, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's a small fraction of his life. He doesn't care.
It's just, have those type of Easter eggs been incorporated in the Wake the Dead or any of your other projects?
Yes, there's been an aspect in Wake the Dead String, the very first chapter that nobody's gonna pick up until the reveal happens. I'm pretty safe. I'm pretty sure that that's something that nobody's gonna pick up until the reveal happens. And once it happens, it's gonna make everything spiral. Actually, there's 2 Easter eggs from the first one. There's 2 different dynamics, actually. Oops, sorry, hold on. They driving by on a little moped. Yeah, there's 2 actual separate Easter eggs that's going in 2 completely different ways. And yeah, and same with Payback. Payback, throughout the whole story, it's like Payback's entire story is an Easter egg. Whereas Wake the Dead, I built those Easter eggs and stuff like that, but it's not as intricate as Payback.
What did you have in mind when creating Wake the Dead, and how has it been received so far by the audience?
From the comic side, I just was trying to tell a story with, I just wanted to have like Black characters that just look like us. Because there's so many times where we've seen stories and everybody is super built, in shape, all this other stuff. And that, I mean, honestly and truthfully, that's just not real. You know what I'm saying? I wanted real body types, real hair types, all of these different things. And that was what I wanted the audience to just see themselves in those characters. Just the realness of like, everybody ain't 6'3", 220, chisel, you know what I'm saying, and stuff like that. I wanted actual shorter people, people that have a little fluff and stuff like that, or people, you know what I'm saying, dudes that are skinny with a little gut. Like me, I'm skinny with a gut. You know what I'm saying? Like I wanted these real dynamics in there, and that's what my main thing was, just so you can not only see our characters, our people on screen, but also see real body types and stuff like that. You go to a Comic-Con, you ain't have to worry about, oh, I'm not swole like Goku, I don't know if I should cosplay this character. Like, no, these characters, you can see a little bit of yourself in them. And that was my main goal. And I think my artist, May, is doing a wonderful job of displaying that.
Yeah.
As far as the audio side, that's on album.
As far as the audio, it's more just allowing the visual. Like the mindset I initially had was, imagine a blind person trying to watch TV. They can't. So they got to picture the story in their heads. So with the sound effects, the proper, like how the voice actors doing the amazing job, it creates that visual. So that was my initial take on it. To the point I started listening to more audio dramas just to understand the production aspect of it to help me. And it's been working great.
I feel like we've gotten pretty good feedback. I mean, shoot, when you reached out and was like, I've been reading it too, I was like, dang, we done really started connecting everywhere.
Speaking of connecting, when it comes to stories, people tend to connect to a certain character that they like or, you know, reminds them of themselves. Is there a character that's become your favorite?
Personally, my favorite character are the sisters themselves, Naomi and Naya. But the character that everybody seems to vibe with, at least from what I've heard, is the Hercules, the Banshee Hercules. And I think Sean is just doing a really good job on the audiobook side, that it done bled over into the comic, and now they're kind of like hearing his acting with that. So from what I've heard so far, everybody loves Hercules. But me personally, the Wake sisters are my favorite characters, just because I know a little bit more than what listeners know on how those characters will develop.
What about you, Alpha? Do you have a favorite character from the story?
Yes, Shaka. Yes. Played by Sean.
That is Sean too, yeah. Sean he goes good with the maniacal to Shaka's just like a rich, wealthy asshole. And he does a good job of, displaying that.
Are there any characters that may have been misjudged in the story so far?
All right, so I'll go. I feel like a lot of people are going to perceive our character Farron as like this quiet lady that kind of just like she's misunderstood and stuff like that. And I definitely feel at the end of the story they're gonna feel a different way about that. But yeah, that's the only thing I can say with that. And then I feel like people are kind of counting Jaden out in a sense. They just think he's so cute and stuff like that, and they just count him out before he can even really show off his wit and how smart he actually is. Who I know you asked us, but for you, who is your favorite character so far?
So I think Jaden's tech is going to be just as important as their necromancy to the story. And so you're right. Like, I think everybody's looking like, he's the cute younger sibling and everything now, but I feel like his contribution is going to be just as big as theirs in the future.
Oh yeah. I think you're right. Jaden is going to have a huge contribution on the story for sure.
Yeah, it's that spoiler. You got to walk around it without giving a spoiler for the future of the story.
Oh yeah, I'm teasing you right now, low key. Like I'm like, oh yeah, he's a huge contribution to the story.
Oh yeah. So across the stories that you guys have told, Eric, across the stories that you guys are telling, because it seems like you have a horror story. There's sort of a superhero action story going on. There's a drama going on, and are all of these stories being written by you two, or is there another writer in the mix?
So me and Alpha. Okay, let me be clear. So I definitely do the writing and stuff for Wake the Dead, but for the audiobook side, it's different than the comic book side, because the comic book side, you have dialogue, but it's not as heavy. In the audiobook side, there's a lot more dialogue because we're telling the story from an audiobook, so we didn't want it to be super short. So what we did was our voice actors, shout out to all the voice actors, I basically transferred the comic book side over in script format. I will transfer it over to script format, and then Kenny and everybody else would be like, I think they would say it like this. So it's more so like the baseline of the story is there, but they're adding so much. Like they're like, I think Jaden in this scene, what you said is cool, but I think it'll be better if he said it like this. So I definitely got to give everybody credit on that, because without, otherwise you would just get the comic book version of it in audiobook form and it just wouldn't hit the same. Like those arguments, those conversations are deeper in the audiobook because of them.
Yeah, definitely. I could see that, because you can't read inflection, you can't read tone, you can't read attitude. You can think of how it may sound in your head, but how I perceive it may be different from how you perceive it, and it may be different from how Alpha perceived it. But then when you have that audio book, that audio version of the conversation, it's not left to guess. Yeah, it is the story and how it's meant to sound, and this person's inflection, this person's tone, their attitude, everything. So I can definitely see that. I can see that for sure.
What were you about to say?
I want to say this. Have the comic available to you and have the audio playing in the background. And see if the visual matches for you with the audio.
I'm gonna try that.
Yeah, there's a lot more dialogue in the audio for sure. Especially since they're matching now. They're on the same exact episode. Yeah, you will see there's a lot more audio in there. And then vice versa though, in the comic, there's a lot more action than you get in audio. In audio, you kind of just getting punch sound and then we go kind of to the next scene. Whereas in the webtoon, you getting like powers that they show, and shout out, there's a lot more in the action scenes or whatever in the webtoon.
Okay. Oh, that makes sense. You touched on it a little bit earlier on how the character portrayals and how you want them to look like normal people, but what's the way to ask this question? When bringing it to life, I guess artistically, narratively, the character designs and everything, did you have any influences with that? Are there any particular stories or comics, mangas, webtoons, movies that you maybe took inspiration from?
So the color tone and everything for Wake the Dead, we decided to go black and white with color splashes. Alpha showed me a Moon Knight comic. He had me read that before the Moon Knight series started, and those dark undertones with little color splashes here and there, even though like there are some panels where it's a lot more color, but like early on there's a lot of gray and color splashes, and I kind of showed that to my artist, and he went from there, taking that into a full consideration and doing it that way. So that was kind of how I wanted it. With it being a horror story, I wanted it to give that dark feel and everything, whereas Payback is full color. So they're like two different dynamics and stuff like that.
So how is it working on two separate stories that are completely different tone, like say different, one's in black and white, one's in color? How do you set up to write those two different stories?
So with me, it's Easter eggs. It's all about, I have the trail and I go ahead and I build quote unquote a web. So I'm like, all right, so this part is gonna be, the Wake sisters get to this point. This part, Jules is gonna have to meet Shaka. This, and so forth and so forth. So I know those parts, and then I fill in the gaps, and that's how I get there. So I do major plot points first throughout the story, and I'm like, okay, how am I going to get from point A to point B? And then I fill in those spaces, and that's how I do it for both stories, because I want to make sure that those Easter eggs are in there. So after I finish writing and I have those major plot points, then I go back and I'm like, all right, how do I add little detail here to show that this has been here throughout the whole time? And that's how I did it for that. And then for Payback is the same exact way, except for with Payback, I make sure to write Payback, be done with it, and stop. And then I'll go to Wake the Dead. I'll never go back and forth, like write this chapter, write that chapter, because the tones are so different. There's a lot more emotion in Wake the Dead, as far as like, these are loved ones that are losing their lives and stuff like that. So there's a lot more emotion and stuff like that. Whereas Payback, there's a lot more rage, because the whole story is about payback, revenge. So there's a lot more rage in that story. So I try to make sure to separate the two as I write.
How important is it for you to portray the Black characters as authentic and nuanced?
1000%. Yeah, it's the most important dynamic. I've read stories where people that aren't Black try to write Black characters and it don't hit. You know what I'm saying? We've had a whole run where Miles Morales was Thor, and it was just some of the things in there was really cringe. I wanted these to feel like authentic Black characters. It's just so much relatability in these characters. The sisters, there's a scene where Naya comes in and Naomi is like, are you wearing my shirt? Like, just like little stuff where, you know what I'm saying, we've lived those situations and stuff like that. And same with Payback. They pick on each other and like make jokes on each other so much that it's like only your friend can joke on you that hard. You know what I'm saying? Like stuff like that. So I just, I try to put those aspects in everywhere. I want it to be as black as possible, without, you know what I'm saying, being overboard and things like that. I want it to be true, authentic to us, and just relatability.
What about, I know in an audiobook, people can't necessarily see the characters, but have you brought that aspect to the audiobook as well, Alpha?
Okay.
Alpha, you on mute.
Oh, me per se, I would say no, but the voice actors themselves bring that to light. Like, they pretty much, I'm trying to say, made the characters themselves and their personality, but seeing a vision of how the character will be. So that's why the creative editing part with the script helped them portray the character the way they want to. So that helped for sure.
Cool. I think we'll come into a close. I got a couple of more questions, but the first one is for aspiring Black artists, Black creators. What advice would you give them based on the experiences you've had with Blerd Minds Productions?
Patience. Things don't happen overnight. I say that. So,
for me, the biggest thing is, if you're a writer, and I know writer's block is a thing and all this other stuff, the hardest thing and the thing that's holding you back the most is that you won't start. Just start writing. Put that pen on the paper, because I guarantee you what you write in that spiral or whatever you type is not going to be your finished product. You're going, as this is your story, this is your baby, you're going to go back, you're going to fix it, you're going to edit it, you're going to critique and continue to do stuff but you're not going to even get to that point if you don't start. So you gotta just write, you know what I'm saying? And don't get in your own way and feel like, oh, I'm scared, I don't know where I want to start, this and that. Just go. And then once you start writing, you're gonna get into a zone and you're gonna mess around, write 30, 40 pages in one set, and you're gonna be like, dang. And then once you go back, you're gonna edit it out anyway. So, and fix it up, alter it. So that's the biggest thing as a writer, like just write, like just go ahead, stop thinking so hard, stop overthinking and write. And then once you get in there, you'll alter it yourself. It'll happen.
Ooh, cool. And then the last question, is there anything else you'd like the listeners to know about Wake the Dead or Blerd Minds Productions?
Go ahead, Al.
I come with I stay.
Without spoiling.
They've been stuck. Have an open mind to the characters.
Nope.
Just your initial take on a character might not be your final impression. I'll say that. Because there's a lot of characters that you're like, I don't like this character. And there's still you don't like this character.
Facts.
Or you like them and then you want to hate them later.
Well, character development in this story is it's a little wild. Things that I want you to know about Wake the Dead. For me, it's gonna be just really think about what's happening in the story, and don't think that you know anything. Like I've basically showed you everything and I've told you everything, especially to the point where you are. If you're up to date, you know everything, and it's right there under your nose, but you know nothing at the same time. If that makes sense, I don't know how to make that make more sense, but like you know everything, and once everything and all the reveals are happening, and you'll go back and read, and you're like, oh, this is right there. It's right there, and it's right. It's super obvious and stuff like that, but it's not obvious at the same time. If that makes sense. And then as far as like Blerd Minds Productions, what I want y'all to know about it is that we're gonna give y'all unique stories. And our thing with me and Alpha and Dave, I just wanted to tell Black stories. Where's our Star Wars? Where's our Black Doom and things like that? I didn't want to have like this, it's always great to have those stories with deep messages and about our culture and our history and stuff. But sometimes we just want our Black story. I just want a Black hero story. I just want a Black necromancy, supernatural story without a big lesson. And that's what we wanted to give off. Just a Black story where we just don't have to deal with the trauma that some people decide to put in stories and stuff like that. Nothing wrong with it. That's your story. That's your calling. But for us, we just wanted to give Black stories, original content.
Thank y'all. Yeah, no. Oh no, I appreciate that, and I can definitely understand that. That's definitely one of the reasons that I got into the story. I seek out Black creators whenever I'm looking for media, and like I say, that's how I ran across y'all and ran across your stories and a few other people, and I definitely show love and try to give you guys a spotlight, make sure that people are aware that you're out there in the space that you're creating, and hopefully help grow your audience as the stories continue. So I think now I kind of want to hop into non-Blerd Mind Productions related things, and looking at your background. I'm a big anime guy. I'm a big manga guy, and I'm seeing some of Yu Yu Hakusho. I'm seeing Hunter x Hunter, Full Metal Alchemist, One Piece. Give me your top 5 anime.
That's hard. That's hard because it's like I watch so much.
Watch it right now.
Yeah, I would say One Piece is my number 1. Hunter x Hunter obviously is my number 2. If Hunter x Hunter ever completes, I'm not sure if that might overtake One Piece because I love Hunter x Hunter a little bit more than One Piece, which is crazy. Then we go from there. I love Gintama. I love Attack on Titan. And okay, I'm gonna go Erased as number 5. I love Erased. I'm really big into like mysteries and time, as y'all know, Easter eggs and stuff. So mysteries, time travel, stuff like that. That's my bag, bro.
Okay. What about you, Alpha?
My number 1 is Hunter x Hunter. 2, Full Metal Alchemist. 3, Mob Psycho. 4, Bleach. And 5, I'm gonna go with Magi.
Ooh, look these. Interesting. Yeah.
I got some stuff like Death Notes. I got Talisman from Jackie Chan. I just be collecting stuff. Like,
no, that's cool. Now, and y'all's top 5, I mean, mine, I said it in the first episode. One Piece was my number 1. Hunter x Hunter was my number 2.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Then I did Full Metal Alchemist was at 3. Yu Yu Hakusho was at 4, and then Gundam was at 5. Like just the whole Gundam series. So, what are you guys? What was that?
Iron Blood Orphan.
Iron Blood Orphan. Yeah. Iron Blooded Orphan.
Yeah. That's my favorite one out of all of them, Iron Blooded Orphans. And I don't know, that one is probably because
you can't rewatch it.
I don't know, man. I probably rewatch it. Rewatch it maybe twice a year.
Dang.
It's one of those where I don't know. And see, I assign them, and I mean, maybe the way that they drew it, the way that they colored it, I'm like, they're Black. That was one of the things is like, nah, they're Black. They're people of color. And then their story was just the best one out of all the Gundam series that I've seen so far. Their story has been my favorite.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. What are y'all watching now? Have y'all checked out any of the Spring 24 anime?
Undead Unluck, which is one of my favorite reads right now. It's Undead Unluck. Everybody's telling me to watch Windbreaker. I haven't got into Windbreaker yet, but everybody's like, it's fire.
Yeah, straight hand.
Yeah.
Thanks. Start first episode.
Okay.
I say this. It's a school version of JJK with Tokyo Avengers vibes. Animation's fire, fights, fire. Well, I'm still trying to figure out what the story is.
Okay. And
How far are you into it?
I'm at the current, I'm one episode behind. So like they just had like the major fight and then they just started chatting. So I'm there.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm caught up as well. I feel like it's a good, they did enough to hook everybody.
Yeah.
And I think now, I think now it's getting into the story. I mean, they've shown a couple of backstories and like Alpha said, the fights are choreographed amazing, like second to none. I feel like they're gonna, where it's at now, where it's ending in this season 1, they introduced all of the main characters, they started the story, and I think season 2 they're gonna deep dive. I feel like with only 12 episodes there was only so much they could show, but with season 2 they're gonna dive into what a deeper story, more than just fights. Like I still feel like fights are gonna be a big part of it, but I think that it's gonna get deeper with the story.
I need a good story.
Yeah.
I will say a lot of people watching Kaiju number 8 too. I got in Kaiju number 8. I'm ready for Sakamoto Days to come out. Once that come out, I'm gonna be all over Sakamoto Days. But yeah, I've heard Kaiju number 8 been gas stuff.
I want to get Fairy Tail. Fairy Tail next month.
Yeah, I was gonna say that one's next month.
Yeah. So I'm waiting for that one.
Yeah, Kaiju number 8 has been pretty good. It's worth a watch if y'all hadn't watched it. I mean, it's one of those stories where it's not the usual shonen that has like this teenage young adult. The main character in there, he's like 33.
Okay, cool.
And it's like one of those where he's had this lifelong dream and just hadn't been able to do it. But he's dealing with those issues of someone who's in their 30s, you know, him doing a task and his back hurting, him getting in this fight and like, you know what, I can't move now.
Just being just real. Just dealing with real life.
Yeah. So it's a good story so far. It's probably, I don't know, I go back and forth between that and Windbreaker being my favorite of this season of the new anime so far. Yeah, I go back and forth. I mean, it just depends on the episode that I watched at the time. With that, has there been any manga or anime that's influenced your creative process?
Yeah, for sure. For Payback, all those aspects kind of get one piece. The main crew are the Straw Hats kind of, you know what I'm saying? Like, they're the protagonists, they're the main characters of the story, but technically, if you want to be real, the actual good guys are technically the Marines, you know what I'm saying? So that's how I have the Zodiacs that are kind of hunting them down and stuff like that. And then I have this whole dynamic of they're called dogs and stuff like that, which is people that have powers that work for the government, you know what I'm saying? They just call them their dogs. They're on a leash and stuff. And then I got the Four Kings, which is the stronger power users that kind of own their little area and stuff like that, kind of like the Four Emperors. So One Piece is all through Payback. As far as Wake the Dead, that whole story is just really giving like a lot of I wanted to give like a chilling, I want to say like psychological, because of the things that's going on too, not just with the supernatural. So it's gonna give like a little bit of Psycho-Pass, a little bit of I don't know if you ever read, because there's no anime for it, but there's this manga called 20th Century Boys. And 20th Century Boys is psychological and it's time travel and stuff like that as well. Wake the Dead, I've done a couple of flashbacks so far in the story, and then it's gonna play with your head later on as things go on. So
yeah, cool. 'Cause webtoons, my introduction to webtoons was actually a horror webtoon. It was Sweet Home.
Yeah.
It was, that was my introduction to webtoon, and it kind of sent me down that spiral from Sweet Home to Tower of God and a few others. But I've noticed that with webtoon, what seems to get picked up more with their stories is the dramas and the horrors that are really turned into more live actions rather than their action. Their action and their action webtoons, which I guess would kind of be comparable to sort of the shonen, the battle shonens. And so, I thought that was interesting that you chose webtoons as the medium to release it.
Yeah.
I didn't know if that had any influence on it or not.
Yeah, so it was one of those things too that I talked to Alpha with, and I was like, all right, so we're gonna play with Wake the Dead coming out or chapter to chapter on Webtoon, whereas Payback will be by volume, and we're gonna get ISBN numbers and try to actually get those on bookshelves. And we're just gonna see which one takes off in a certain way, and if that doesn't work so well for Payback, then we'll start putting the chapters on Webtoon. If that doesn't work so well for Wake the Dead, then we'll do the volume and put those. And so we're just trying to see what takes off.
Trial and error.
Yeah, trial and error. So we was like, all right, would it be better to just go straight to try to get it in stores with this way, or should we try Webtoon? So we're trying both. Gonna see what happens. Oh, and I just looked up and I completely forgot about this. Physical copies are coming soon. This is just a test print, but Wake the Dead physical copies are coming soon.
Cool. And plug that. Where will people be able to find them?
BlerdMinds.com, or if you are going to DreamCon, I'm going to have about 50 of them with me. You know what I'm saying? If you guys would like to purchase them in person at DreamCon, find me, and I'm going to have them on hand.
Cool, definitely. I got to make it to DreamCon. I'm going to try to sneak away.
You're going to be you'll be in San Antonio. But if you're in Austin, we'll find a way, even if we don't at the con, link up with you afterwards or something like that.
Yeah, definitely appreciate that. And okay, so yeah, I think we could wrap up. I appreciate you guys. You guys are my first guest, and that means a lot that you were willing to come on, willing to sit down and chop it up with me. I'm definitely going to have you guys back on to talk about some of the other stories and audiobooks that you guys are putting out. And even if it's talk about Wake the Dead more, as the story progresses and things of that nature, I'll definitely want you guys back on. I'll give you a platform. You're welcome back anytime.
Man, thank you so much for having us, for real, man. Like, being the first guest is like crazy. That's a lot of pressure you put on us.
Y'all lived up. Y'all lived up to it for sure. So plug the socials one more time before we go.
You got me. For me, it's Scuba Steve 1428 on all social media. The Twitter for Blerd Minds Production is Blerd Productions. And for the Instagram, you can follow us at Blerd Minds Productions on Instagram, or you can follow the Wake the Dead comic book page, webtoon page. It's at Wake the Dead. And then on Facebook as well, Blerd Minds Productions. You can find us over there.
For myself, Twitter, really, BYE_BYE. But the production company, we actually have a link tree. I think that has everything you need, which is LINKR.com/. bit.ee/BlerdMP. So take the link tree, it will lead you to all our social media platforms, including the website.
And the website is blerdminds.com. That's up and running. It's really, really cool. You can see everything that we got in there. We made it super interactive for everybody, so hopefully y'all enjoy it. Dave really worked really hard on it. He's actually missing this interview right now because he's working on it right now.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we can get him on next time.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Well, thank y'all. I'll close y'all out. Again, signing off from the Side Quest Hustle. You can find us at the Side Quest Hustle on all streaming platforms and social media platforms, anywhere you listen to a podcast or watch a video. Thank y'all for joining us. We'll see y'all again next week.
Peace.
Cool.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Yeah, we ready right now. Got me feeling so free.